Well, York looks beautiful and crisp today. And there is a bus full of snooker fans making their way for an afternoon in the company of a man who right now is just the ticket. And that is our live game from the Barbican on Eurosport 1 in just 10 minutes from now. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 12 frames on the bounce, centuries galore, and Michael Georgiou is the man who must stop his charge. And on Eurosport 2, it's world number 1 Mark Selby against Robert Milkins. So you have a choice of tables this afternoon in Eurosport. A very warm good afternoon from myself and two men who know what to do with a load of balls in a snooker queue, Neil Foles and Jimmy White. Neil, what Ronnie says, what Ronnie does are two different things. And right now what he's doing, there's glimpses of the formidable force being back.
Yeah, he's playing really well. Look, you've got a 1-2-8 draw where you've got possible mismatches early on, and Ronnie has made them look like that. You know, his first two matches have been really comfortable wins. All you'd expect of a champion. It's never dull watching Ronnie O'Sullivan play, even when he's bidding someone he should beat 6-0, and he's been spectacular as ever. Absolutely.
16 frames now, and he's only lost one. 9 centuries, we think, in those. It's just fantasy snooker. And on the subject of that, we always like to start each show by looking back at the last session in case anybody missed it. And last night, Ollie Lines, what a sensation, Jimmy, beating Judd Trump.
Yeah, fantastic win for him. Started off the first frame, he had a sizable break, kept his form going. Trump did have a bad run of the ball, but great win for Ollie Lyons. I'm really pleased for him.
Oh, he showed composure. His safety play, Neil, was sensational.
That is the best I've seen him play as a professional, because I was starting to not have doubts about him, because he's, you know, a relatively young man in inexperience, but his results haven't lived up to the hype. But a win like that last night, that does live up to all the hype, and all the best for him, because he's a good lad, you know, really nice lad. His dad's a nice guy as well, Peter Lyons. And it's a great story, I think, that he's beaten Judd Trump. I think Judd's not very good at playing guys he knows well, because Jack Lisowski, they used to, you know, share a house together, and he always used to beat Judd. And I think Judd's got to try and get this kind of killer instinct against guys that he's good mates with.
Now, the story itself of Ollie getting through, his dad's also through the last 32. It's very close to your heart, Neil.
Yeah, I mean, in 1983, my first season as a professional, my first venue, I got through to the last 32 at Preston. My dad, who'd beaten Bill Werbenek in the qualifiers, got there as well. And he played Steve Davis on one table at the Guildhall, and I played David Taylor on the other at the same time. I looked on social media last night. My dad reckons that he was distracted, looking around as if he could have beaten Davis.
What was the score?
9-1.
Right, so how distracted was he?
Well, very by the sound of it. But Davis, in 83, you know, he was like a machine. Yeah. So my dad did well to get one, bless him. He's probably watching, my dad. I lost it to David Taylor as well. But that was the only time, and it was tough, even that. But, you know, these two guys, I think it's wonderful what they've done. It's so difficult to do. I mean, maybe then things were a little different, you know. People would be in the game a bit longer. I think, in a way, there's an argument what Peter Lyons has done is better of the two, because Ollie Lyons, we know he's going to get there. Peter's just still playing great snooker, and now he's an amateur, so it's wonderful.
Well, if Mr. Foles is watching, you brought up a beautiful boy. Some of the language off air is not great, but let's have a look at the draw for the last 32 of the UK Snooker Championships. Of course, one of the biggest tournaments in the world of snooker. Top half of the draw, there's a lot of really intriguing matches that could go either way. In particular, looking forward there to Ollie and Peter, the fairy tale story at each end of the top half of the draw. And Oliver plays the other Robertson that hasn't been knocked out by a member of the Lyons family. Now, loads to pick out from here. I'm particularly interested in Mark Allen against Ryan Day. I think that'll be a real ding-dong. And Mark Allen got his first ever televised 147 yesterday, so he's on cloud 9 right now. But even before they'd won their last 64 matches, Neil, you've been concentrating on Yulong and Bing Tao, because that's a wonderful little story.
It's a really wonderful story, because the World Cup, which took place, was a two-man event in China last year. China was the only side with a B team in it, interestingly, and in the final, China B, which was these two youngsters, Bing Tao and Zhu Long, played John Higgins and Stephen Maguire, and they won it. They beat Maguire and Higgins on merit. when they were 15 and 17 years of age, respectively. And this is the first time they've had to lock horns as opponents. You know, they were so pleased to win. That is a fascinating match, and it's going to be the first of a lot of matches between two real superstars of the future.
There was some of the big names didn't turn up to the Northern Ireland Open, and it was used as a semi-excuse for the unpredictable quarter-final lineup that we had. But we could be staring right at the face of something quite similar, because the big names have been falling.
Absolutely. Bingham, Robertson, who was the other guy? Judd, you know, they've all got beat, so, you know, they obviously got to change tactics next time. If you're going to have a break, have a month's break, not a week's break.
So that's what I say as well.
They might as well have gone to Belfast and try and get some match practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ronnie O'Sullivan did play in that. Didn't last too long. He lost to Karen Wilson, actually 4-3. 3 centuries on the bounce, still from 3-0 down. That's actually part of his 16 frames in a row that he's only lost one of. And Ronnie's been in typical O'Sullivan form when he's been chatting to us this week. Of course, he's one of our Eurosport pundits, but we hope he doesn't make this couch. We hope he stays exactly where he is now, talking to Matt Smith.
You seem kind of in a good mood at the moment, like, you know...
What, am I normally in a bad mood then?
No,
yeah,
but...
I know what you mean.
It's kind of... Well, you want it at the moment,
I think I've kind of got used to caring but not caring.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably not, you know, to be too precious, to be like, you know, this tournament, that tournament, my rankings. I think, you know what, just get out there, hit a few balls, it don't go right. You know, what's the worst that can happen, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, and I love the snooker fans that come and support me. I love snooker, but I just don't want to live and breathe it anymore. I'd rather, like you said, have other things going on and, you know, just dip in and out of it. And it's not like, I'm not like dependent on snooker anymore, whereas before I felt trapped and that's all I ever had. And that was quite a dark place to be, really, you know. You feel like, well, you know, all my eggs are in that one basket, which was quite scary sometimes.
Back to the kind of, I suppose, the reality of this. Obviously, there's 3 of you, I think, on 28 ranking tournament. So even if you don't want to count them all up until the end, it'd be lovely to have another one, wouldn't it?
Oh, listen, you know, I've learned that, you know, even when I'm not feeling like, sometimes you say, oh, I don't care, but really I know I do care. So whenever I hear that voice, I know that it's a lie. It's just maybe a cop-out. So I would love to win this tournament. I'd love to win any tournament I'm playing, but I'm a realist and realise that, you know, there's also another 127 players that would like to win. So, you know, you just have to be a bit more realistic about it and just sort of, you know, just enjoy it for what it is and play and... You know, and if I happen to pick that silver up, great. If I don't, I get a few days off. I can relax, go home, do a bit of punditry work. Ain't all bad.
No, indeed. Indeed. I think it's Michael Georgiou in the next round, who I don't know if you've played before, have you? I
don't think I have, but I know he's a really, really good player and he's had some good results and, you know, he's going to be a tough match for me. But, listen, they're all tough matches.
Well, let's have a look at head-to-head. It's probably not worth Michael Georgiou having a look at that, obviously, in terms of their history. It just points out what a David and Goliath battle it is today. But, Jimmy, Michael Georgiou is an interesting subject. Practices with your old mate Tony Drago, or did until recently. Left the sport, came back to the sport. There's all sorts of things going on outside of snooker.
Yeah, he plays in Frames Academy in Causden, dedicated professional. I think 3 days a week he works in his mum's coffee shop, you know, to make ends meet. But he's always practising, very dedicated. And if Ronnie does give him chances, he will take them. But I just think Ronnie's a little bit of a different level at the moment.
Yeah, Michael hasn't really had that red letter day, has he? No. At the top level yet over the last 2.5 years since he returned to the game.
Really fine player going back in time. I guess a landmark for him. £10,000 he's on a minimum of. That's his highest ever payday. And in the previous round against Mike Dunn, he made his highest ever break as a pro, 1-3-4. So he's on the up. He's walked into O'Sullivan here, and you know, I think he's going to find it hard. But it's a big occasion for him.
Yeah, but I think he'll also, you know, he's got quite a good team around him, and he's got Kirk Mafflin, he's his stable partner and all that. He will realise that, you know, he's a huge second favourite against O'Sullivan, and he's got to go out there and enjoy it, you know.
Absolutely.
O'Sullivan's got to play bad for him to win. No disrespect to him, because O'Sullivan, for me, is just playing a bit too good at the moment.
I'm watching him yesterday. You know, not only was he playing so well, but he was also getting the breaks, and I don't mean by that centuries, I mean these type of breaks.
Well, he plays the double here, and it goes in and out of bulk and falls in the middle pocket. You know, great for the crowd.
Yeah, and just the way that he is. I mean, he did get this was the other fluke, and it took him to this another century. You know, in the nice sense of the word, he's a bully on the table. You know, he can completely overwhelm anybody, and that's what he was doing against Reece Clark, who, at the end, there's a little sheepish smile on his face. He said, "Thanks very much. I've just seen what I've got to do at this game to get to that level," and it's so tough for anybody like that.
So tell a Neanderthal like me then the records for unanswered frames. So he's at 12 at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm talking in major tournaments. It can't be that much more for the record.
Well, Stephen Lee's got the record 33 in qualifiers. I don't know exactly. I'd like to know exactly who was involved in those matches, because Stephen Lee was a fine player. He's not on the tour anymore. But I know that in the World Championships we had Quinton Hahn 2-0 up on Mark Williams, and he lost the next 13. So he's on the way to that, and I think you're getting the feeling maybe that he could get another 6 on that today. He could win 6-0. It's possible, isn't it?
Yeah, you would feel if you're playing Ronnie O'Sullivan at the moment that if you make that one mistake, it's going to cost you the frame, Jimmy.
Well, Ronnie O'Sullivan, he's not pushing the boat out. He's playing safe when it's right to play safe, and then when he is getting a chance, with where he creates chances from nowhere, he is like, you know, he's just scoring so heavy, and that is the art of this game.
Some people may choose to tune into Eurosport 2, guys, because we have the world #1 there. We're spoiled today with Mark Selby.
Yeah, he's playing the milkman. He's playing Rob Milkins. Personally, I would say a player that is tailor-made for Mark Selby, in that, you know, Mark's got the consummate all-round game, wonderful tactical player. Milkins can play the game, but it's not the kind of guy. He'd have probably a better chance against O'Sullivan, you know, in a way.
And he's the only guy, you know, who's had the rest. He didn't go to Belfast as well, Selby, and he's still in the tournament, so it might have worked for him. He's got his friend over from China, Bobby, so he's really taking this tournament serious.
Happy days, yeah. Everybody else who's had that week off has kind of suffered a little bit.
He didn't play very well the other day, Mark Selby, and he is somebody that looks into his game quite deeply when he's not playing well and asks around, what am I doing wrong and all that. And, you know, at the moment, there aren't many signs that he is playing well. However, he's got this wonderful way of regrouping. He played a bad match, 2 or 3 days off, he finds something, and he's always the man to beat.
In terms of our feature game here in Eurosport 1, I suppose one thing that Ronnie must do is really just take every game at a time, because if he looks ahead in the draw, Jimmy, he's seeing all these big names getting knocked out. They're no longer players he's going to have to play in the quarterfinals. Robertson, you know, Trump in the semi-finals, and that's what we were kind of prepared for.
Yeah, you know, the wise gamblers will be on Ronnie O'Sullivan now to get to the final, and he would realise that the top players have gone, but he's such an ultimate professional, he would take no notice of that, and he'd just concentrate on one game at a time.
We did touch earlier, Neil, on the fact that, you know, it's been a long time since Ronnie stood at the bulk end of a table and lifted a trophy above his head, but probably more important right now, the ranking points, because it's remarkable to think it, but he had so much time out of the game, Ronnie. You know, he's got to get, I think, semi-finals to stay in the top 16.
Yeah, I mean, of course, he won the Masters earlier in the year, but that's non-ranking. Then he won the Welsh. But you're right, since then, people have found ways of beating him, played it above themselves. And should he, say, go out today, for instance, or in the next round or two, he's not in the 16, but that won't affect him as far as the Masters, because, of course, he won it, as I mentioned, last year. But, you know, the worst scenario is that Ronnie O'Sullivan has to win 3 qualifiers to play at the Crucible. I don't see that happening. I see him going really well this week, and that ranking problem is a thing of the past.
Plus, it's best of 11 as well. It's a longer match.
Absolutely.
Word of warning, I suppose, when we look at this as being straightforward, is the English Open. Wasn't it Chris Wakeland beat Ronnie in that?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a real shock. You know, there's no doubt about it. Over best of 7, I think the point Jimmy makes is a good one. Longer matches, it's unlikely to be a turn-up for me.
Rob Walker's going to bring the players out.